Hello, listeners, and welcome to Youth Ventures Podcast, PDX Business Spotlight. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of PDX Business Spotlight. Today, we are interviewing Kiki, who is the founder and owner of Himalayan dumplings. So, Kiki, can you please go ahead and give an overview of who you are, what your business is about, and how you got started?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Gauri. My name is Kiki, and I am an immigrant mom that lives in Beaverton. I'm a business development manager by day, and during the pandemic, I launched an artisanal frozen food line, Tibetan food brand during the pandemics.
Wow. And Kiki, who or what inspired you to start your business?
It was a very organic process. I didn't have any epiphany or anything like that. When I became a mother and, being an immigrant, I started a family here in the US. I have two daughters that are half Tibetan and half Cambodian, and I found myself naturally gravitating towards my Tibetan culinary heritage to introduce my American born daughter towards their Tibetan roots, and it's kind of evolved from there. So from there, the effort and the desire to introduce our Tibetan culture and a story grew outside our home. It went on to night markets, and I was blown away by the response from the community. And then it went on to more night markets across Portland and Hillsborough and Beaverton. And yeah, fast forward 6 years, and during pandemic when all the public events stopped, I decided to launch a line of frozen Tibetan food, primarily Tibetan or Himalayan dumplings and Tibetan hand pies.
Wow, Kiki. I have interviewed a lot of business owners, and a lot of them have kind of had an affinity or just a passion towards going into business as at a very young age. And a lot of them have come from business families. But I feel like for you it's really different and really organic. As you said, you truly were inspired by your children and just introducing them to your culture, and that grew into such a huge business and such a cool passion too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was definitely started at a very micro level. I had no grand vision of launching a company or whatever. It was a very natural, organic evolution. I took my time and I responded as the community responded. Then that empowered me and encouraged me to think bigger, to dream bigger, And part of it was I'm already a mom. I'm no longer very young, and all of those stories you tell in your head. But you know what? I was like, I have one life to live. I'm just going to do it. So I did it.
Perfect. And Kiki, you did mention a little bit about how you launched your frozen food line during the pandemic. So, of course, we know that the pandemic did play a huge role on our lives, especially within BIPOC owned businesses. I mean, we saw so many businesses shut their doors, and we saw so many businesses being launched and transforming into the online platforms. So, how did the pandemic affect your business specifically? Did it have more upsides or downsides?
The downsides was, I think, just in general, the social, no longer having that social interaction and all of that. It was very challenging in the sense that as a mom, I have two kids who go to elementary school. So the first year or so, I was doing my day job. Then I was trying to launch my company. And then I had two kids who were doing virtual school at home. So it was extremely, extremely overwhelming. It's an understatement to say that. But aside from that, the upside of it, I see it really forced me to, I don't know, I had this, it was an eye-opening experience for me because I had this fear and this uncertainty of, do I have what it takes to launch such a company that has never been done before in the US,
Yeah.
And so I had all these doubts, but during that time, yeah, I came to the self-realization that yes, when I started very small and I did my first night market, at that point too, I didn't know whether I could do it. I had no culinary professional background other than cooking for my family and stuff, and I did just fine, and in fact it exploded. So I was like,
Mhm.
you know what, I can do it and I will learn on the go. So here I am. So I would say for the most part, it balances itself out. It had its downs, but I think most of us try to overcome it the best we can and make
Yeah.
the best out of it, right?
Yes. Well, as you mentioned, I feel like dealing with virtual school itself was very difficult. I am a high school student, so of course that was really difficult for me, but I can't imagine
Mhm.
how hard it would be for elementary schoolers, especially like little kids. So I'm
Oh,
like
goodness,
it's
yeah.
really inspiring to see how you like manage teaching your children and having them deal with virtual school while also being in a day job and like launching your business as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And Kiki, how has being a person of color affected your business, either positively or negatively?
Oh, that's I think there's so many layers to it. It's like an
Yes.
onion, right? You can keep peeling
Mhm.
so many layers to that. I do the best as I can, Being
Mhm.
an immigrant, you don't necessarily have that generational built up of whether it's wealth or connections or
Yeah.
network. Things that make it a lot easier to start a business, right? So
Mhm.
in some ways or in many ways, I literally started everything from scratch.
Wow.
So coming here as an immigrant with one suitcase, $100 or so, I literally started everything from scratch. And then same thing with my business. I kind of look at it like a pregnancy, giving birth to my baby,
Mhm.
a very long pregnancy and very laborious and painful at that. And yeah, I mean, I don't have a large network of, actually, I don't think I even have an entrepreneurs in my network to be able to tap and leverage into their experience and
Yes.
expertise. So I
Mhm.
really had to go out of my way and seek help from community organizations and things like that. And during my journey, I did come across well intentioned feedback that, what I aspired to do in launching the first of its kind Tibetan frozen food brand in the US was too big of a goal to have for someone of my stature. Because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, the reality is that from a regulatory standpoint, it's very complex.
Yes.
The financial barriers to start such a company is extremely high. That's why in the frozen food industry, you will rarely see mom and pop shop type of
Yeah.
companies. It's really large corporations. So yeah, I mean the challenges are there, but I guess here I am doing the best I can. I mean, if I can start from scratch with one suitcase and hardly knowing anyone in the U.S., I think I can do the best I can to pursue my dream, even though I feel it's quite later in my age to do that.
Kiki, I really do love the point that you mentioned about how being a person of color and being like a BIPOC business owner, starting off, it is really difficult because you don't really have necessarily those connections. And one thing I have noticed is I went to the My People's Market last
Mhm.
weekend and I did notice like the beautiful like BIPOC business community. I really love how like close knit all of you guys are and like
Mhm.
really like truly all of you are so down to earth and like always
Mhm.
willing to help. So even though like BIPOC owned businesses do have that like trouble in getting started, I feel like that we just have like so many resources in our community and like like such a beautiful BIPOC business community that like there's like always community support and I really do love that aspect too.
Indeed, indeed, yeah. I mean, community is one of the biggest strengths, right?
Yes.
There's room for everyone to grow and
Mhm.
flourish and share their story and pursue their passion. So, really, yeah, it's about lifting each other up. When one succeeds, we all succeed, especially for very small, underrepresented communities like the Tibetans.
Mhm.
We are a very small community, only about 150,000 people in the entire global diaspora. It's a
Mhm.
very, very small. That's about equal to put it in perspective, the number of Nepali immigrants there are in Texas alone.
Mhm.
That's how small the Tibetan community is.
Wow.
So if one person succeeds and does does something, pursues something that has never done before, it inspires
Mhm.
others in that community and even in other marginalized and underrepresented communities to
Definitely.
think, if that person can do something that's never been done before, perhaps even though it's challenging, I too can do the same, So it's a very
Yes.
empowering feeling and responsibility.
Definitely. And Kiki, this is kind of a switch of the topic, but what is your favorite food that you sell?
A favorite food? Oh gosh, it's probably consistently my classic juicy beef momo.
Mhm.
It is one of the most popular. Momo is a Tibetan word for dumplings. I call it Himalayan dumplings only because it represents or reflects what momo has become in the
Yes.
Himalayan countries of Nepal, Bhutan, India,
Mhm.
and Tibet. So that's why I call it Himalayan dumplings. But originally, it's called momo, right?
Yes.
So yeah, for me, it's the juicy beef dumplings, but also what's equally popular now or has become and also become one of my favorites is the veggie and shiitake momo, which is the vegan
Uh-huh.
friendly momo option I have. Yeah.
Wow, both of those sound super delicious. To all of our listeners who are listening, we will be linking Kiki's website and her social medias in our bio. So if you want to order, if you want to find where she's holding her next market, you can definitely go visit her and buy from her. Kiki, I was looking at your website and I saw a recipe channel. So I was a little inquisitive about that and I just wanted to ask what inspired you to start your recipe channel?
Because originally and even now, the goal, my love language, everybody has a love language, right? For some
Yes.
it's art, for some it's music, and so on and so forth. For me, it's food. In
Mhm.
particular, it's I feel that it's such a universal language, right? You don't necessarily need to
Definitely.
understand the language. You taste the food, you get a dish or that food represents. So during the pandemic, what I started doing in the early months of pandemic was I started a YouTube channel where I didn't just want to show people how to cook a Tibetan dish, but I wanted to provide context, cultural context in particular, where I'm not only showing people how to cook, but
Mhm.
also explaining the cultural significance behind it and sharing a personal story that so that way people can get a better perspective
Mhm.
of the dish that it's a lot more than just meets the eye.
Yes.
So that's why I started the channel, and that's why I wanted to make the recipe channel a feature of my website.
Wow, I truly do love that because I know going into like a market or going into a grocery store or something, buying food, you're not able to really get the deeper meaning out of it, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But like
Mm-hmm.
reading through your recipe channel and like looking at the story a little more, you're able to really get a
Mm-hmm.
good sense of like your culture and the deeper meaning behind like each and every one of your products.
Right, right.
And Kiki, what advice might you have for young entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs of color? And what are some experiences you could talk about that might motivate or inspire them?
Oh, goodness. For young entrepreneurs, I would say don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, what holds us back from pursuing our passion or our dream is because we are afraid of failure, right? We don't want to
Yes.
mess up. What if we don't succeed? And so on and so forth. And then we may go into analysis paralysis mode. And then we dissect it so deep, we go down the rabbit hole and you talk yourself out of it and you've done nothing about it?
Yes. Mhm.
So if you're in your 20s or younger, or maybe even 30s, I say don't be afraid to make mistakes. And if you don't have children yet, that's a perfect time to go explore because real growth truly comes from trial and error. So that's
Mhm.
the best time to do it with minimal risks. And it's totally okay to start small. We may have grand visions and grand dreams. One day I dream to be across all grocery shelves across the US. Am I there? Definitely not. And if that's what it takes is to open up a 10 by 10 tent and haul around, all the kitchen and start a mobile kitchen somewhere
Mhm.
outdoors, if that's what it takes, then so be it. So I'm literally starting small. So I
Yes.
tell your listeners, if you're young, go for it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes at all. I mean, what's the worst that can happen, truly? We learn a lesson out of it. You learn what not to do or what to do more of. And if you're a working mom like me, there's somebody a little older, it's not too late to chase our dreams. I know I had that story in my head constantly telling myself, I'm too old for this, you
Yes.
know?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, you're never too old. It's not too late to start chasing a dream. But one last thing everybody says, just do it. If you have a passion or dream, just do it. I say, yes, I agree. Just do it, but have a plan. You have to have a plan. You can't just wing it and then expect everything to just miraculously,
Yes.
fall into place. You have to have a plan. It may not be a perfect plan, but a plan is a good. It's like a roadmap. Even
Mhm.
though you know where your destination is, you kind of have a guide as to how you want to get there.
Definitely.
And lastly, know your why. Why are you doing it? Is it just to make money alone? What is it? Is there a bigger purpose?
Mhm.
And for me, that has probably been one of the most important things that has kept me focused, especially when I have felt overwhelmed,
Mhm.
especially when I felt things were not going the way I expected to or not going as fast as I wanted to. And especially juggling between being a mom and a bread earner and then trying to just have my startup, my
Yeah.
food startup company. There were times when I was sleeping very little, very exhausted, and what really kept me going, waking up and starting all over again the next day, was reminding myself of why I'm doing this in the first place. It's not really to make money or get rich because I have a amazing day job, that pays me very well. So it's certainly not to become rich. It's a much bigger purpose than that. And that's what's kept me centered. It's like my North Star. It's what will keep you focused on your vision. And that I feel is no matter what your age, whether you're high schooler, 20s, 30s, if you want to start something, know your why first.
Definitely. Kiki, those were, first of all, amazing points that you touch. And to all of the young entrepreneurs, and honestly, to all of the entrepreneurs out there, I definitely do recommend that you follow them. And thank you, Kiki, for touching on all of those
Mhm.
points.
Absolutely.
Kiki, how can people support your business?
Yeah, thank you, first of all. If you're interested in supporting my little startup dream, people can pre order my Himalayan dumplings. They're frozen and ready to cook. You don't have to have any experience in cooking. All the cooking instructions are at the back of the packages. I also offer Tibetan hand pies. They're very delicious, can be air fried, baked, or deep fried as well. So they can go to my website. It's HimalayanDumplings.com. So it's Himalayan Dumplings with the S at the end.com. Or you can follow me on my social media. I'm fairly active on Instagram and on
Mhm.
Facebook. And I'm under the same handle, Himalayan Dumplings.
Wow. And listeners, we will once again be linking both of her social medias and her website in the bio. So if you want to pre order from her right now, you can definitely go click that link. Or if you just simply want to support her, we truly recommend you to follow her on social media and like, comment, anything to support Kiki.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Of
Thank you.
course. And Kiki, are there any special projects or anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, I am actually trying to keep up with the pre-orders, which I handmade from scratch. I handmade from scratch everything I offer. So while doing that, I'm working on multiple projects because all the projects take a long time. So I'm getting many things in motion. But one of them is Beaverton Farmers Market. I know for those that live in Beaverton or around, Beaverton Farmers Market is very popular. And starting this Saturday, June 11th, every Saturday, I will be at Beaverton Farmers Market, and hopefully in the very near future, I will finally have a permanent home. I get asked that all the time. Do you have a restaurant? Is there somewhere where we can come and get hot food and so on and so forth? So if you follow my social media, stay tuned. I will be having lots of big updates, including nationwide shipping in the near future.
Wow. So, once again, we recommend that you visit Kiki personally at the Beaverton Farmers Market. We will include some information about that in our bio. Second of all, definitely do go follow her to stay up to date on when she's going to be opening a new restaurant maybe, and for further updates like that. Kiki, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any last things you wanted to say?
Thank you, Gauri. And I just want to commend you. What you're doing is amazing. And you mentioned you're in high school right now, right?
Yes.
Oh, I am so in awe of you, girl. That's just amazing what you're doing. Your level of curiosity and the follow through and the attention to detail that's required in putting together a podcast. I don't know if many realize that there is a lot of work that goes behind putting up a podcast and maintaining social media and stuff like that. I know firsthand. So I applaud you for what you're doing,
Thank you so
especially at the
much.
age that you're doing. So you go, girl.
Thank you so much, Kiki. It's truly been an honor to share your story and to spotlight your business. And to all our listeners, that is it from PDX Business Spotlight. And please do join us in the next episode. Thank you for listening to PDX Business Spotlight by Youth Venture, and we hope to see you in the next episode.